you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, we shall be drilling deeper also. We'll come to you, Joshua Kiptoo, to just carry on with the conversation on the outfit of a Jubilee and also the 19 governors that might be barred from running. Will it really happen? And do we know that the IBC have also that mandate to actually make sure that these governors do not really run, or they're just, you know, batting their heads on the wall? We have callers who are hanging on the line. We'd love to hear from them. We have Rodriguez. Rodrick? Good morning, Rodrick. All right, let's have Margaret hanging on the line as well. Good morning, Margaret. Hello, good morning, Margaret.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. You have a question or a contribution for our panelists this morning?
Just maybe 2 comments.
Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody on the panel.
Good morning.
It is good to have you there. I have about maybe 1 or 2 comments.
Very briefly.
About Senator Wamatangi, please, when you are debating, be at least very, what word can I use with your comments? You should not be tearing into other people's comments, because everybody has got his own or her views, and you have to respect that. Secondly, you are next to our President Uhuru Kenyatta. The things you get here and from other viewers, please, if you can be correcting him, you are the people who make him even go astray. Please make sure that you give correct information from the grassroots, and that will be helping our president.
All right, we have Margaret. We have another caller hanging on the line. Otoa Sifuna, good morning. Hola. Hello, Otoa Sifuna, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Debarl.
Morning to you. You have a question or a contribution?
Yeah, this is Otoa Sifuna.
Yes.
Debarl, very quickly, you know, if elections were to be determined by one vote, I would have voted Miguna Miguna. He is a very sober politician with very articulate agenda for this country. But my friend Miguna Miguna, because politics is universal suffrage, you will not be elected. That one you can take to the bank. Debarl, very quickly, this country is bleeding. The cost of basic things such as unga. The other day, I bought 2 packets of unga, Debarl. When I was working in the estate, everybody thought that I had joined the Illuminati, because the cost of unga is too high. Debarl, let me tell you, yes, this country, the politicians of this country must know. And right now, as we speak, Debarl, the nurses are back to the strike. Teachers are waiting on 1st of July. And I'm telling you, the CBA that was signed by the teachers, if by 1st of July it turns out to be a Bonoko CBA, rest be assured that teachers will also be back on strike. But I want to caution the likes of Wamatangi that the country is watching, because he's the bad worker of Jubilee. Jubilee must be so much afraid that the cost of things, basic things such as unga, such as milk, my friends, that is what will send the likes of Wamatangi back home. Otoa Sifuna from Nairobi.
All right, thank you, Otoa Sifuna. Your reactions before we drill deeper into other conversation, Joshua Kiptoo.
Now, a quick reaction would be that I kind of find the voter being more forceful than before. And I really somehow pity the current political class. They seem to have some little bit of disconnect with the rural voter or the voter down there. There seem to be a slight disconnect in the sense that you can feel the frustration, you can feel their misgivings about what to say, what not to say. So at the end of the day, that tells you that the frustration and the disappointment, and that goes from the county to the national. You could pick out the way a voter would say, you know, in fact, the only thing that holds back the vote, I would pick the first commentary who commented on Miguna, who says, he is a good guy, I will vote for him, but there's universal suffrage. That tells you something. The only thing that holds back, there seem to be some handbrake. There seem to be mass hysteria whereby no one, like, voters are eager to move out of the usual voting pattern, but there's still something holding them back to the extent they say, okay, how about if I vote alone, will the rest vote with me? So that tells you there's frustration, there's a growing gap between, and even I've tried to see the campaigns, how they're done, even from the, in fact, the reason why I would say the presidential campaigns are kind of starting on a slow, they seem to be disconnected, both political camps. When the president and the deputy are addressing the masses, when the opposition is addressing the masses, you find the frenzy not as much as it was. There seem to be a clamor for something more. Beyond the theatrics and everything, there is still clamor for something more, which I think as time goes by, it will be very important for the politicians, whether governor, whether senators, they'll have to drive into that. Otherwise, I don't think. And lastly, you had also mentioned the issue of, even the issue of what about the voters' will. You saw the issue of NASA, for example. At first, they said they wouldn't have a problem with the independence, then later they turned around. I think that is now, in fact, it's a clear issue that voters have this idea. We saw what happened in the nominations. You can't tell us, yet we saw what happened. For example, this is the first time you'll have independents having a fair chance. Unlike before where in fact the voters would be voting from the presidential all the way to the MCA, this time that would be different. And if you just ask, just as a piece of advice, Jubilee was very crafty in that. In December, they were all out there saying that if you're not Jubilee, there'll be nothing. But as time goes by, they have toned down to the extent they are supporting everyone. In fact, the president has been on record going all over and saying, whatever you choose, I don't. In fact, even he went to Nyandarua and Laikipia. And if you saw his comments, he didn't even come out so outright for Jubilee like his own people. He said, let the voters decide. If the same can happen, because it also creates a bit of turnout for opposition to get their voters, let the intra-competition within the county be very exciting. Let them fight it out. Because if they come out, if you have an independent competing favorably against the party candidate, and there is so much competition,
thank you,
all their supporters will come up.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Onyonka.
Thank you. Debarl, I wanted to actually echo the comments that my brother Kiptoo has made. The Kenyan voter, as we sit here, has become extremely rational. This is what I've realized at the grassroots level. They are actually looking at us with a level of intelligence that didn't exist before. Or this could actually be because the Kenyan voter is now exposed and the Kenyan voter is willing to listen to people who want to solve problems for them. And that is why you realize, like you had, there's the gentleman called Otoa Sifuna saying that actually he would vote for Mr. Miguna. I mean, then he says, but. So which means the Kenyan voter is beginning to rationalize his decisions about what do I want from this person that I'm going to vote for? Do I want Nairobi to change? If I want Nairobi to change, how is that change going to happen? Who is the most probable candidate who can actually change Nairobi for me? If you go take my area where I come from in Kisii, previously, the current governor has actually been ahead. He's ahead of the other guys who are running against him. But you have the Jubilee candidate, who's Senator Obure, and you have Honorable Onyonka who's running on the KNC, where actually now slowly the race might end up being a 3-horse race instead of where before it was just a 2-horse race. And the reason for that is that the voters are beginning to slowly ask themselves, all the resources are coming to the county government. The person who's actually handling 40 billion shillings after 5 years is going to be the man called the governor. Do I need a governor who's a manager? Do I need a governor who's a politician? Do I need a governor who's honest? Do I need a governor who's minimally corrupt or not corrupt at all? And I think for me, Kenyans are beginning to change and Kenyans are beginning to be very positive in terms of choosing the leadership that they want. Finally, you heard the lady, Honorable Wamatangi, saying, please talk to President Uhuru Kenyatta. That means the voter right now is beginning to realize that there are certain issues which they don't have direct access to President Uhuru Kenyatta to tell him this is wrong and this is wrong. And as a result, we as the leadership, or the people who are in political leadership right now, like I am in the opposition, I must be honest with my party leadership. We must get out of the utopian thinking where everybody thinks that if you are belong to the opposition and you come from this region, then all is well. All is not well. You have people in Nyanza who have got governors who have pilfered public money, governors who have misused public funds, governors who are living beyond their means. Right. People are building houses which have got 19 bedrooms, and yet when you do a social audit of them, the public is beginning to say they must be held to account.
All right.
I think
we'll come to you. We'll
yes,
come to you.
Let's hear to reply.
You will come. Of course, we will come to you. Let's hear from Honorable Mithika Linturi.
I hold a different view in regard to the rationality of the voter, because yes, it is true that the voter may be irrational now, But we need to understand that why we go out to campaign.
Rational or irrational?
No, rational.
Rational.
Okay.
Yes.
Why we go out to campaign and why we have 16 days, I think, or 64 between now and the voting time is for us to use our skill to persuade the voter to think in a different way and probably to support those that are from Jubilee and the others, or those that could be in the other parties. And I want to tell you, and I want this anyone that is listening to wait until 8th. We have so many independent candidates running now, but when you look at their history, you realize these independent candidates have either come from Jubilee or from ODM or from other parties that were so predominant, so dominant in particular parts of this country. Meaning that those are the favored or the parties that are of priority in those particular areas.
Yes.
But since these people lost a chance to be candidates for those political parties,
yes,
and then have run to become independents on one thing, because they have lost. Number two,
no, but the nominations were
let
sham.
me explain. You know,
Linturi, you must be honest on
no,
both
let
sides.
me explain. You
I
know
mean,
that is, you know, in any election,
Debarl,
let me tell you, anybody that I would respect is anybody that was independent before some
the
election subjected to a nomination. Let me argue my case. No. Let me argue my case. Let me argue my case. It is not expected anywhere in the world that you have a free and fair election. Forget it anywhere. And especially when it comes to issues of political parties. Yes. It is not possible. It's a fallacy.
That is not true. That is also not true.
I'm trying
only
to
in
explain my
Africa.
position.
Only in Africa.
So
we are in Africa.
All right, just a moment. Let him finish. So
you
they
know,
shouldn't be labeled as independent.
Elections, Debarl,
These are protesters.
Is not.
Are they protesters?
It's
Some
a
of them are
process.
protesters.
It's a process. It's not an event.
Yes.
So many things may happen that may tilt the ground towards a particular candidate. But what I really wanted to say is that those people that are running independent today have either lost in Jubilee, ODM, or ANC in Western, or wherever it is, and now I respect those that the people I respect are those that decided to run independent without subjecting themselves to party primaries.
Okay.
And because they lost, they always find a reason. And because there is no election whereby somebody will come honorable and say, I lost, it was fair. To the extent that you find even Kapokon getting 60,000 votes, and again is Waitito, who has over 300 and says this was not, it was a sham. So please, let us be reasonable. Let us, allow me say that by the time we are voting, candidates, people on the campaign trail will have convinced the voter to see things differently and say in either Central or in Lowland, if Tinga or Jacom is saying is one-piece suit, whatever they are saying or telling Miguna now will be history. And this I'm telling, or Rift Valley, where the DP is expected to go and tell them, look here, my friends, yeah, these people lost, right? And if you want us to be in government, or you want us to support the Jubilee Party, then you really must vote with them because we require their numbers. So this will be completely different, and I think time will tell.
All right, let's hear from Wamatangi before we have your say on social media as well. Wamatangi.
Yes,
but I also have to respond to his comment.
Just a moment.
You know, Debarl, can I protest that every time when you come to me commenting, you say briefly? While everybody else is it because my views strongly resonate with reality? So because you want a bit of politics,
you hit the
that
bullseye.
is spice, and you know,
No.
yeah, I mean, can you first let me make my point? Because you make sure that I'll be answering last, and then you say briefly. It is because you want spice in talk that is not congruent with reality. And I have to talk truth to politics.
Yes.
I have to talk truth to leadership, because we must bring a new dawn and a new dimension in how things are looked at in this country. You know, and also, secondly, my views about Jubilee and the leadership and His Excellency the President should not worry you or anyone, because actions, as they say, speak louder than words. But let me say what I wanted to say first, and very briefly to respect what you said. One, I just wanted to respond to what Margaret said, because Margaret said to me that it is good that I don't tear into other people's comments, and indeed I do so with a lot of respect. But you know, of course, you have to tear into a lie so that you can shine truth on it, or even bring reality. And I think that was brought about when I commented about Mheshimiwa Onyonka and NASA, and I said they decided to go in as a marketplace. And the truth of what I was saying was that Ford Kenya is green, ODM is orange, Kalonzo Musyoka's party Wiper is white and blue and pink. And so I said they cannot have a suit. The only thing they can have is a coat of many colors. Yeah. If they are going to be wearing anything. That's what I said, and it's reality. So, yeah. And lastly, Ottawa Sifuna said, can I speak to the president? And that's what I wanted to finalize with. And say, I don't need to speak to the president. Ottawa Sifuna needs to only see what the president is doing and what Jubilee is doing, because it is the actions that speak even what you don't need to tell that person. If the reality of what I see in Kiambu, because what I would want to see in Kiambu is a revival of those industries that I spoke about here, in Mithika, in Uplands, in Ruiro. And if that's what I see him going to do in Mumias and other places, that's why I say I will resonate with him. What I want to see are better and higher education standards. And when I see him saying that now you don't have to pay exam fees, that you want to make education free, that's what I want for my Kiambu. If when I look at Kiambu, what I want to see is better roads for my people to bring out their sukuma wiki and their cabbage and their eggs to sell in the marketplace. And I see my president and the leadership of Jubilee going to every part of this country and saying we are doing 10,000 kilometers of roads. This time, I know they resonate with what I'm talking about. If I want to see the young people in Kiambu employed and getting jobs, and I see that what they do is initiative here at the Jubilee leadership level, I resonate with them. And that's why I am not afraid or ashamed to say to Sifuna and the like, please, let us embrace a new day. Let us embrace a new thinking.
Thank you.
Let us break down and tear down the walls that say, because you are from this party or from this region or from this community, we can never see things together. We want to build a new country.
Thank you.
And one country for that matter.
Right. Let's hear from also our social media what you have to say as well. Usha, she's standing by. Usha.
Right, got a lot of feedback coming our way. In the interest of time, I'll only be able to read a few, but do remember we can keep the conversation going online on #AMLiveNTV. We are also streaming live, so in case you're leaving the house, you don't have to miss out on any part of the show. So just head on to our Facebook page, that is AMLiveNTV or NTV Kenya, and you can keep watching. So on Twitter, we have Victor who says, Wamatangi is a true leader. His input will make Senate a better, stronger institution. We also have Kimani who says, independent candidates have made the current political situation favorable for the ordinary Kenyans. We have Aiden who says, the larger Meru is slowly embracing NASA. If Jubilee keeps ignoring the plight of Meru people, they will be in for a shock. We also have Kara who says, a suit won't work this time. Frauds are hiding in parties. We have Kiptoo who says, do you know that everybody in Kenya is corrupt? It's just that those who complain lack the opportunity to steal. Very interesting perspective there. We also have George who says, all the politicians say something related to something like Miguna. Until they get to power, they remember nothing, just like Kidero's slap. We also have Ali who says voting 6-piece is only possible during Moi's era. Leave that to the voters to decide. And finally, we have Samuel who says the main obstacle to democracy is the political leadership because they bribe, rig, incite, tell lies, propagate propaganda. So it seems a lot of people are not happy with what is currently happening. That seems to be more of the comments that we are getting. There are some people who seem to think that we are still headed in the right direction. Remember, do keep your conversation going through AM Live NTV. Back to you, Debarl.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Many thanks indeed, Usha, there. And of course, this conversation continues also on social media. We want to appreciate also your input on social media, that you keep the conversation going throughout the day. And we'll just go back to a panelist, Miguna Miguna, as we're winding up very briefly. Yes. And also, we prepare our headline thoughts as we're winding up as well.
Debarl, I would like to, of course, there were comments from our viewers.
Yes.
But I would like to start by saying that I am happy that out of this panel, only Honorable Linturi believes that a free and fair election is not possible and it's not realistic. As a country, we have a constitution. We are a constitutional democracy. And we are entitled to a free, fair, credible, transparent, and democratic election.
Yes.
And that should be non-negotiable. So I just want to make that very clear, that we are not going to quibble, we are not going to argue, we are not going to negotiate over this. This is what Kenyans are entitled to, and we must give Kenyans free, fair, credible, transparent, and democratic election.
Yes.
Both at the party level and also at the national election level, because these parties are not private entities. These parties are funded by citizens of Kenya who pay taxes. Okay? Number two, not everybody in Kenya is corrupt, and I think that cynicism is a bad thing. It does not liberate. I'm not corrupt. I've never been accused of corruption and will never be involved in corruption. And there are a lot of Kenyans that are not corrupt out of choice, out of their ethical values. They have had opportunities where they could have stolen. For example, you can't tell me that Honorable Wamatangi has stolen since he went to the Senate. I've not heard. But we know people who have stolen at the Senate. And we know governors who have stolen. So when we are speaking about theft of public resources, we don't want to play around with words, nor should we play around or hide in cynicism. When I worked as a senior advisor for the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister of Kenya, I had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. I had the opportunity to grab public land. I had the opportunity to engage in all these unsavory things that even hairdressers are engaged in. But I decided out of my ethical beliefs and integrity that I was not going to. People have to embrace and appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, let me still comment.
We are winding up.
No, I know, but I've not commented on those comments. Remember, everybody else has been... No, I would join Honorable Matami that when we speak, you are very anxious. But let me speak. Let me finish. So nothing is going to change when Miguna gets to power because his ethics cannot change. A human being has a software called integrity or do not have it. And those who do are not going to get new software. Yes. Now, Otoa Sifuna said universal suffrage. First of all, he acknowledged that I have substance, that I have integrity, I have vision, I have policies and programs that are good for the city of Nairobi, and he would vote for me. I embrace that. I thank him for his vote. Then he says universal suffrage would work against me. But universal suffrage only means each person is entitled to a vote, that everybody must vote. Everybody has a right to a vote. So what I would tell Otoa Sifuna and other citizens is this. Everybody has one vote. Vote for the right candidate. It is your vote that will dictate who wins on August 8th. There is nothing called universal suffrage that will dictate that.
Thank you.
It is you who will. And Miguna deserves that, not the thieves.
All right, thank you. Honorable Kimani Wamatangi, briefly.
No, thank you. I would want to summarize by saying to my fellow Kenyans that we are staring at one of the greatest opportunities of this country, the greatest opportunities to give this country a new lease of hope and a new lease of leadership. Because we can say that we want to live in the past and choose to be in the past, as you have had many comments from our viewers. And we can choose to make a difference and make that difference right now. And the good thing and the luck that we have, and that's what I want to opine to, is that at least we have had a taste of it. And I'm clear in my mind when I talk about that, because for the last 4.5 years, we have seen what real action can do as opposed to the politics of rhetoric that we have engaged in for many years. And if we can say as a country that we want to renew and embrace this new way of political leadership in this country, then we will have nothing to regret in the many years to come. At least we can say, as much as we are being told now, if you remember, Kenya was rated the other day amongst the countries that have joined the new economic leadership of the world. Even that's why you find that we were among those few who were invited. The president went to speak in the G7. That's the recognition that we're getting. Now we can domesticate that in our politics by making sure that we also rise to that level of standard. That the same politics played in Germany, in the United States, in the United Kingdom, those G7 politics can also be the G7 politics of this country. And that's the way we are going.
Thank you. Honorable Onyonka.
But at the same time, I wanted to just mention to my brother Wamatangi that when you look at the IPSO, the Synovate poll that came out, 60% of Kenyans believe that the country is going in the wrong direction.
That's what we are doing
When
to inform them
when you
correctly.
look at the scenario in Kenya, Kenyans are hurting. I think that we need to rethink. We need whoever that wins these coming elections, the presidential level, county government, members of parliament, Kenyans are not happy. We can do better. This country needs to reduce its corruptibility. We need to improve the accessibility to the basics. We need to give our people clean water, make sure the roads are available, make sure that our children are going to school, make sure that everybody feels that they are included and is a country that is moving in the same direction. So my feeling is, I actually sincerely believe that the Kenyan voter is rational and they are going to choose the best option that they're going to be provided for. My only hope is that the elections will be free and fair and believable, as we've said, and that we will minimize violence and make sure that whoever that wins, the country would have survived and we can move forward and try and re-engineer and try and change our country so that it becomes the best country in Africa.
Right, Joshua Kiptoo.
Maybe just to, my closure would be just to answer our good Senator Kimani Wamatangi, that if there's one thing that him belonging to the government side would wish to do to get, is not to tell citizens what they are not seeing. There's a disconnect here, and I wish that they would pick very clearly. What they say in their portal of delivery and how they package it, you know, it doesn't work on the basis that they have been 4 years, 5 years. The voter makes us the two. So there's that ability and humility to accept that here and here we have not done right. So I think for this particular dispensation, the first step as a country we've started is at the county level. The next step will be the national level. But even at the national level, let it not be lost that the voter sees, the voters, in fact, they look at things how they have been. And I think it will be wrong for them to continue trumpeting that idea that we are doing so well, we are a middle income economy, yet the country is bleeding and it's suffering. But in fact, the bottom line would be, if the voters would climb over that idea of being in a mass cocoon or a group where we operate like a herd, if that can move away and we just focus on individuals and focus on issues, things will change. The beauty is the process has started. At the county level, the issues are what will dictate. When you come to the national level, that will be the next step.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Mithika Linturi.
Yeah, my closing remarks would be that we have a long way to go. We have a journey to walk towards the realization of a free and fair election, and I would appeal to all the stakeholders to really play their parts right, because elections, in my view, is not an event, it's a process, and we cannot say an election is free and fair when there is violence.